That's it.
Chaos rules the Gayton household. When Carver Gayton isn't lining up money for the Northwest African American Museum.
Hi, Laura. Could you give me a call? We had that meeting at 1:30.
The museum's executive director is making the coffee that's fueled him for 3 years.
Gayton, to help you?
Carver and his wife Carmen have lived this crazy existence ever since 2004.
I think she has that Bluetooth in her ear when she goes to sleep.
I wouldn't say that. That makes two of us then.
Ever since the community leader made the mistake of rushing to the last place you might expect. But as you'll soon see, Carver relishes the frenzy, mainly because of what you see in this picture. In fact, all these photos show you how Carver came to be the picture of determination. This civic leader has worked with politicians and rubbed elbows with superstars like Bill Gates and Barack Obama. He even caught the attention of historical figures like former Justice Department head Robert Kennedy.
He did write a little note to me on that picture. That came about a week after I met him in Washington, D.C. in his office. The Justice Department has the ultimate authority over the FBI. And I was the very first African-American FBI agent to come out of the state of Washington.
You learn quickly that Carver comes from a family of firsts. His mother's grandfather, Lewis Clark, made his name as a former slave who escaped a Kentucky plantation into Canada in the 1850s. You may have read about this abolitionist in a book that seemed like fiction.
His experiences are reflected within a book called The Key to Uncle Tom's Cabin. One of the characters in that book, George Harris, is based on my great-grandfather's life.
His father's father also made a name for himself. John T. Gayton arrived in Seattle from Mississippi in 1888. This former doctor's valet probably never expected to become the face of Seattle's fledgling black community back then.
He was the patriarch for the Gayton family, and was one of the founding members of the First AME Church here, the oldest African-American church in the state of Washington.
So, with a pedigree like that, you're probably not surprised Carver Gayton would step up and become the engine driving what soon may become the country's preeminent African-American museum. You will be surprised to learn a bathroom break gets much of the credit.
I don't know if you knew that he was actually on the original selection committee when they were trying to find who the executive director would be for the museum. And Carver happened to have gotten up and he went to the restroom. And when he came back, he realized that he was the person that would be taking over the museum.
The poor timing cost the Gayton family big.
It does affect how your normal operation of your family life is affected. You know, he may not be here all the time for dinner, or he may not be here on weekends, or we may not be able to take that next vacation. And we've missed quite a few vacations because he could not go.
To make sure she followed through on what your request was, okay? I'll talk to you later. Bye. Well, Chandler, this is what we call the Journey Gallery. It goes all the way from one end of the museum to the other.
Mm-hmm. But family is exactly why Carver Gayton signed on to lead the museum. Remember this picture? The baby is Carver and Carmen's son, Chandler. The adult is Alex Haley, the author who inspired all of us to seek out our roots.
If you look at this one, for example, this is about the early churches.
Today, Carver hopes this museum inspires his now 17-year-old son to tap into his own roots. It may be working.
Well, I think that my generation needs to learn how to take the initiative to find out about the history, because we do need to learn.
Most of us may not have the old photos, the monuments, or the famous books linking us to the past, like Carver. But thanks largely to Carver's passion and crazy drive toward the future, we each have our own rearview mirror to the past.
I feel as though that one will have more pride in oneself if they have an understanding of from whence they have come. I mean, in other words, it gives one a sense of pride and confidence if you know what your people have accomplished, what they've achieved. I think it's going to give you, that much more confidence